I think my biggest shock of this whole thing was going into a natural grocery store like that and not just getting a yes. I was like, what do you mean? I mean, look at our ingredients. How can you say no to this? So I was naive to think you could make a really good product and people would buy it. I think the hardest thing was realizing, like you said, you create this product and you're a food creator and you're really passionate about it. And then you realize you have to be a salesperson, and that's something I'm not really good at, because starting with a restaurant, we just opened the door and they walked in. Then I realized you had to do all this sales and marketing, and you could pretty much slap a pretty label and have enough money and market anything. And we didn't have the money and we didn't have a pretty label. We just had the ingredients. So I had to learn really the hard way that how much it's really about money and having the right sales connections to land those deals. And, you can buy your way into any store. And that's the tragedy of this industry. It takes a lot of perseverance to get to the point where a co-packer will even take you, because from their side, they don't want to make small little production runs. They want to be making hundreds of thousands of bars. And so to get to the point where they're going to be making your bar every day or every couple days needs there's a lot in between that step. So you've got to have a lot of accounts where the bars are turning, but it's hard to get into a lot of accounts until you have the production capacity. Mm-hmm. And when you bring your bar or your product into a manufacturer, they already want you at scale, and usually you're not there. So it's really massaging that relationship and getting them to love you and getting them to believe in your product to even get in. So it's a really hard thing to get from zero to, $500,000 or $1 million in sales than it is to go from $1 million to $5 million. I think nowadays we have different vehicles to kind of test the product. You don't want to quit your job and put your life savings into something and think you're going to be able to make a great product and make it, because the reality is we fail. So you have to be capitalized, because all of the hard part to even get it on the shelf, that's just the first part. So one real big lesson is really to wait and make sure it's perfect, because once you put something out there, you can't get it back. And that's what happened to us. And so because of all that hard work, it was a giant fail. To get a national PO from Whole Foods is a kind of a golden ticket, right? And we literally couldn't fill the PO. There's a lot of competition out there, so they don't really care what your issue was. They're just going to take the next free fill and slot them in right behind you. Oh. So it's really worth it to get it right, before you put it out. Saying no is very hard, but probably one of the smartest things that you'll do. When you go out to raise money, you're in this little desperate state, and you have to be very, very careful who you take that money from, because, being in partnership in business with money is like a marriage based on money. And what's the number one reason for divorce is money. So people get really funky, and you want to feel good about who you're taking that from. And as the founders, you want to protect yourself and the integrity of your product and what's really important to you. You can write all of that important stuff, whether it's your ingredient quality or your plan, into your operating agreement. Mm-hmm. So even though you take money from someone who ends up being a disaster, they can't change it because it's in your operating agreement. So invest in a proper lawyer, someone who understands what you really want, and make your operating agreement very founder friendly, because you do not want to end up getting completely screwed later on and having people, you hear it every day, the founders get shoved out and then their product degrades and it's not even what their mission was to begin with. Yeah. So that's a very important thing, and not a place where you want to skimp. I just have a problem with injustice, kind of in a personal type of feeling, and I just don't feel like it's right the way the system is. You should get paid for what you do, and you shouldn't be able to put shit on the shelves, pardon my language, with enough money into the largest natural grocery store, and just because money, they fill the shelves with these products that are not even to their standards. I mean, they've got products owned by Coca-Cola in there that contain GMOs, and you're like, really, guys? I think I would have understood sales and marketing more and understood who my target market was. I didn't really understand that. So I went too big, too fast, which is a very common mistake. You know, I would have figured out exactly who loved my product and focused on them and then really grew it there and grow slower, because you cannot afford to grow faster, because growing faster does not equal more income. It equals more output of money. So you have to be able to grow slow, improve your concept, whether it's like, hey, I sold $100,000 of this on Kickstarter, or I go to the farmer's market every week and we sell out every time. You need to have a success story to be able to get to the first round of funding. Yep. And then you need to be able to get to that next round. So just go slow.